Dobar dan i dobrodošli na drugu online radionicu, odnosno drugi online tutorial koji organizuje Regionalni Challenge fond za potencijalne aplikante u Srbiji. Kao što znate, Regionalni Challenge fond nastaje na inicijativu Nemačkog saveznog ministarstva za ekonomsku saradnju i razvoj. Sredstva su poverena Nemačkoj razvojnoj banci, a glavni implementator je Komorski investicioni forum, čija je članica i Privredna komora Srbije. Danas ovdje imamo i predstavnice Privredne komore, Mirjanu Kovačević i Lidiju Matijaš. Dobar dan, dobrodošle. Tu su i moje kolege iz jedinice za upravljanje fondom, gospodin 𝗵𝗲 𝗥𝗲𝗴𝗶 i Frieder Wörmann, koji će vam i uskoro predstaviti kako da popunite aplikacione formulare, obračunate budžet i dati brojne korisne savete u vezi sa predstojećom pripremom vaših izjava zainteresovanosti. Pre nego što nastavimo, ja ću pozvati moje koleginice iz tehničke podrške da nam daju par korisnih informacija u vezi sa praćenjem današnjeg webinara.
Hvala Jelena. Dobar dan i dobrodošli na drugi tutorial i sesiju za pitanja i odgovore Regionalnog Challenge fonda u Srbiji. Pre početka webinara kratko ćemo se osvrnuti na tehničke tačke. Dragi učesnici, na današnjem webinaru dostupan je simultani prevod na lokalni jezik. Kako biste aktivirali opciju interpretacije u Zoom traci sa alatkama, u donjem delu ekrana pronađite ikonicu interpretacija. Kliknite na datu ikonicu i odaberite opciju Serbian. Podrazumevana opcija prevoda jeste da čujete 80% prevoda i 20% originalnog zvuka. Ukoliko u potpunosti želite da eliminišete originalni zvuk i čujete samo prevod, klikom na ikonicu interpretacija odaberite opciju Mute Original Audio. Dakle, zvuk na engleskom možete isključiti opcijom Mute Original Audio. Preporučeno je da koristite Zoom desktop ili mobilnu aplikaciju. Tokom webinara vaši mikrofoni su priključeni, a vaša pitanja u vezi sa aktualnim pozivom za izjavu zainteresovanosti RCF-a na lokalnom ili engleskom jeziku možete postaviti putem Q&A opcije koja se nalazi u Zoom traci sa alatkama. Preporuka je da pitanja postavite nakon izlaganja panelista. Pitanja učesnika će biti odgovorena tokom sesije usmeno ili pismeno od strane panelista. Ukoliko u toku sesije odaberete opciju Raise Hand, daćete signal moderatoru da želite da postavite pitanje usmeno. Tada će vas moderator pozvati da se uključite u program uživo i postavite vaše pitanje. Pre uključivanja u program uživo, molimo vas da proverite da li je audio sistem podešen tako da možete koristiti mikrofon na vašem uređaju. To možete uraditi klikom na strelicu pokraj ikonice mikrofona u levom donjem delu ekrana i izaberite opciju Test Speaker and Microphone. Tehničku podršku, kao i druge učesnike, možete kontaktirati odabirom opcije Chat, koja se također nalazi na Zoom traci sa alatkama. Putem ove opcije možete razmenjivati komentare sa ostalim učesnicima. Prilikom korištenja iste, možete komunicirati sa određenom osobom ili sa svim panelistima i učesnicima ukoliko odaberete opciju To all panelists and attendees koja se nalazi u chat sobi. Hvala.
Hvala koleginicama iz tehničke podrške. Ja sam juče primetila da mi ova uputstva na početku liče na ono uputstvo iz aviona. Znate, kad sednete pa kažu, iako često letite, poslušajte neka pravila koja će vam omogućiti da budete bezbedni tokom putovanja. Tako da čuli ste Aleksandru, chat vam je dostupan za razmenu komentara, tehničku podršku, a nama je nekako lakše da pratimo vaše pitanja kroz Q&A i ja i moje koleginice drage iz Privredne komore ćemo se truditi da adresiramo vaše pitanja. Samo malo pojašnjenja oko strukture današnje sesije. Najpre ćemo čuti detaljna uputstva od mog kolege Pavola o tome kako da popunite formular izjave o zainteresovanosti koji se nalazi na našem online grant management sistemu. Sva pitanja koje budete imali u vezi Pavolovog izlaganja možete postaviti kroz Raise Hand i kroz Q&A I Pavel će napraviti pauze nakon svake sekcije da odmah adresiramo pitanja vezano za tu sekciju, odnosno za taj odeljak, da vam ne bi to onako ostalo nejasno. Možete da se bez problema posvetite praćenju ostatka prezentacije. I nakon Pavelovog tutoriala, instruisanja, čućemo gospodina 𝗏𝗏mana koji će vam dati savete o kreiranju budžeta, o finansijskom učešću, predstaviti neke smernice i biti otvoren za vaše pitanja u vezi sa tim. Tako da eto, imate u vidu za Pavela pitanja o formularu, za gospodina 𝗏𝗏mana o finansijama i budžetiranju, a naravno ako imate bilo kakva druga pitanja o ostalim aspektima, možete nas pitati kroz question and answer i mi ćemo se potruditi da vam odgovorimo u toku sesije. Sada, da ne bih dalje dužila, vidim da imamo negde nekih 40 učesnika, što je super, imali smo i ograničen broj za ovu sesiju da bismo mogli lakše da ostvarimo interakciju. Da ne bismo dalje dužili sa uvodom, prepuštam reč mom kolegi Pavlu 𝗏𝗏𝗏, našem koordinatoru koji je negdje najviše radio na pripremi aplikacionih formulara. Pavel, the floor is yours. Pavel će govoriti na engleskom, tako da ako vam je potreban prevod, aktivirajte, kliknite na Serbian kanal koji možete vidjeti na ikonici, ovoj globus ikonici. Izvoli, Pavel.
Slide from now on, so I hope it will be still interesting for you to see and hear from us. But yeah, let us guide you through the grant management portal we have installed for you for the application for expression of interest. And I would like to go really from the beginning, because I understand that all of you have already registered in the system because you have been asked for the reference number, but maybe we have some representatives of the enterprises in the presentation now present, and they will need to follow up basically the same procedure, same steps as you did with your registration. So once the enterprises are invited, then they will basically get this screen with the registration, and they will need to enter the initial information about themselves and register in the system. What I want to highlight here already at the beginning, that you see these red asterisks in the fields, which represents the mandatory fields. So without completion of these fields, you will not be able to complete and to basically, finalize your application before you will be allowed to submit it. So it's important to finalize, to complete all these fields. So once you get registered and entry to the system, you will get this dashboard on the left-hand side. For you, the most important, let's say, tag will be My Applications. And here you will see the overview of your application, where once you start, you can always re-enter it after you log in and continue with the resume button. Once you resume your application or start your application, you will get to the summary page. That's the initial summary page where you get the information about your application, about the status of your application. So here, I just want to highlight there is the reference number of your application, which is going to be for us the parameter by which we recognize your application. And at the top of each page, which you will see in the system, you will see some boxes, the text, which represents guiding notes, by which, if you read it carefully, you will know what to do, how to do, what information do we request from you, how to proceed. At the bottom part, you will see this little table, and this little table have 9 sections, and each section has these buttons start and edit. So if you didn't start yet any section, you will see the button start. But if you started some section, you will be able to edit that section. What is important to say here that you can edit different sections without any order, particular order, depending on availability of the information which you have. And you can also save the work in progress. So it's not necessary to finalize, to complete all the fields in the particular section before you can move on to any other section in the application. So you can always return back to any application, to any section over here. What is also important to notify here is that you have these two tabs, application and participants. Application represents basically your application of 9 sections, and participants represents the partnering enterprises, which I will explain a little bit later here in the next slides. So if you click on the participants tab, then again you will see little instructions how to invite the enterprises, and at the bottom part you see this little table where you see the enterprises, and when you will open up this participation field or enterprise field, you will see the button invite. When you push this button invite, you will open up this little screen with the invitation information where you need to enter initials for the person basically you are going to address your request to participate in the project. And you can also enter your email, your text by which you want to explain the purpose of your email, of your invitation. Once you push the button send invitation, the system will automatically send this invitation to the email which you specify here in this box. And next to your message, personalized message, there will be additional text in the email, additional instructions to the partner enterprise by which they will be able to follow the steps and to register in the system. Once the information from the enterprise will be reviewed, you will see completed and reviewed, you will see the button here completed. So in this case, one enterprise information has been already completed while the other hasn't been yet started, so they haven't been yet invited. Once the enterprises are invited to the system, they register in the system, they will be able to access on the summary page the same table as you see these 9 sections, but as you can see here, they will be able to edit only section number 3 and number 4, while the other sections are only for view. So they are not able to edit the information in the other sections. This is just to protect the information, the data which you already inserted, just to make sure that by accident they do not get damaged or deleted or edited in a way we wouldn't like to do so. But we would like still you to ask that leading applicant is the one which is entering all the fields, all the information into whole application, including the information about the enterprises. And only afterwards, when these information are in, you will follow up the steps to invite the enterprises and ask them to review the information which are inserted in the application. Are there any questions? I would pause here now because this was all about the summary page. Are there any questions here?
Yes, we have one. We have one hand raised, Mr. Mladen Kostić. Now I will A gospodine Kostiću, sada ću vam dozvoliti da govorite. Evo, izvolite.
Dobar dan, Vladan iz Tehničke škole u Ćupriji. Pitanje glasi, da li se preduzeća sama registruju ili ih mi iz Tehničke škole registrujemo u sistem?
Da li se preduzeća sama registruju na online grant management system, da li sami treba da kreiraju nalog? Jeste na
Tako je.
Pavel, did you manage to understand?
So shall I explain, Jelena?
Yes,
I don't
please.
know. Okay. So as I explained here, you need to invite them. Yeah. And after you invite them, in the email, they will have instructions and links, which will redirect them to the initial registration page, and they will need to register themselves, enter the system. The system will recognize based on your invitation to which application the invitation relates to, and they will get to the summary page, which I showed before, which belongs to your application. So they need to register themselves in the system.
And if they're already registered, then they just...
Yeah, when they are registered, they will get access to the summary page under this My Application, yeah, which I showed before. So here, My Application, they will see the same screen. Yeah, they will see the same screen, My Application, this table with 9 sections. And within this table of 9 sections, they will see they can edit section number 3 and number 4. And for the rest, they will be only able to view the information, not being able to edit.
Gospodine Kostiću, jesmo li uspeli ovim da odgovorimo na vaše pitanje? Halo? Da li se čujemo? Izgubili smo. Da, izvolite. I dalje vas čujemo.
To, u redu, razumeo sam, jasno mi je.
Ok. Da li imate još pitanja vezano za ovu sekciju?
Ne, hvala.
Ok, hvala vam. I don't see any other questions related to the section, so I suggest we move on.
Okay. But still, I just want to emphasize once again, we ask that it is leading applicant, the VTI, which is entering all information in the system, and only after the full information is included, you will invite the enterprises to review the information. I will get back to that because the information about the enterprises, sorry for that, are in the section 3. Yeah, so you will need to follow on that in section 3 and 4. So now we move to section 1, which is on eligibility criteria. So here you get set of questions related to eligibility criteria. And as I explained already on info sessions, you need to reply to the questions which are here. And if your reply would not comply with the eligibility criteria, you will get the automated message from the system to inform you that you are in compliance with the criteria. And if you would not change your reply, you will be not eligible for the project. You will not be able to submit the application. I don't know if there are any questions regarding the eligibility criteria, which are mentioned here, or the way you need to reply, because then we move to section 2.
Evo da proverimo da li se neko javlja, da zatraži neko pojašnjenje. Nema. There are no questions.
Okay. So then we move to section 2, which is information on Vocational Educational Institute. So when you enter to this page, then you will get at the top this lead applicant contact details part, where you see a little table, which you will need to edit. It's marked with the red asterisk, so it's mandatory. And then it opens up the fields for the basic information. And what I would like to highlight here is that the country name is unfortunately not mandatory field. and we would like to ask you to make sure that you enter the proper country name, in this case, Serbia. And yeah, then that way we can be sure which country you come from, because it's not mandatory. So if you don't fill it properly, it might happen that it will be with different country. In case you invite the enterprises, then you will see instead just the name of the leading applicant, also the information about the other 𝗏 consortium partners, about your enterprises as well. In these sections, we are going to ask you to complete the information about the staff, teachers, and students numbers. We are also asking about a short profile of VTI, basically, again, a brief introduction or overview of your activities, of your educational profiles, the occupations, the different courses you are organizing, the general organization of the VTI experience with your academic training activities. Then also about the grants and other aids received in the past 3 years. So again, very briefly, to specify the approved amount, how successful you've been in the utilization of that grant, what was the main purpose of the funding. So we don't want you to write here a big reports, just very brief, basic information that we understand that you in the past came across already some grant schemes and you utilize some of them. And we want also experience from the cooperation with enterprises. So here again, we want to list all relevant enterprise partners you were in cooperation in the past years. And again, very brief information. We have there also a question about the liability towards credit bureau, tax and employment authorities. And here I would like to emphasize that we are asking only about the overdue payments. So not the regular duties which you have to the authorities, but only about the amounts where you are really, where you didn't manage to repay on time your liabilities, your commitments, and these are pending and you need to pay them in future. So we want you to mention here to respond to these questions, whether you have any liability or not. And in case you have, because there might be certain specific situations where you have them, then we also included the box to explain why and what is the origin and what's the plan, how to go about it. Yeah, we received some questions. What is credit bureau? So in general, for us, it represents a register which can be handled by private or public authorities, and where we can see, after the request, whether any debts which you have is overdue. This is about section 2. I don't know if you have any questions. Let's try to answer them now.
There's one question asking about accreditation, institute accreditation, but I'm not sure I'm seeing it in section 2.
No, not here. Not
it's
here.
Not
it
here.
comes up later. It comes up
exactly.
later.
I was just checking and gospođo Dokić, onda sačekate da dođemo do sekcije gde se to pominje, pa ćemo onda i da odgovorimo na vaše pitanja, koje nije problem. I just asked to wait until we reach that section and then we will answer. Thank you.
Okay,
da li ima nekih pitanja vezanih za ovo što je kolega Pavel do sada govorio? Any questions related to this part? No, Pavel.
Okay. What I also can mention here, that you see on each of the section or each page these little tabs where you can move within the system, within the application, so you can always move to the previous page, previous section, or the next one. You can also save the progress during your work on different fields. And you can also return to summary. So the summary page, which I showed at the beginning. So this is present in every page or every section, as we call it. And it's easier when you want to get back to the summary page, just to push this button, and you will get out of the sections into the summary page to see where do you stand, which sections do you need still to complete, etc. We move on to section 3. So in section 3, we have information on vet consortium enterprises, the partners within the consortium. And here again, there are some instructions in the top, information, guiding notes. And then within the section, we would ask you to complete some contact details, again, from each enterprise. And then to add main characteristics. And this would include legal form, where you need to select from the different drop-down menu items. Then we have activity field, which is really one-liner, so one line to briefly explain what sort of activity do you perform. Then economic sector, again, drop-down menu, where you need to select the best option which is applicable to your activity, to your sector. Then we are asking about size of enterprise. It could be small, medium, or large. Then we are asking about the numbers for the total staff, managerial staff, and technical staff. So technical staff is basically all the staff next to the managerial, which remains to the total number. So it could be workers or support staff and other basically people who are employed, who have contract with the enterprise. Then certificates and qualifications. So here, in case you have some awarded certificates, quality, for example, quality standards certificates or qualifications like training licenses, etc., awarded to some of your staff, then we would like to ask you to mention those here. Then in short profile, the same as for VTI, we would like to have here short overview of your business activities, your position on the market, resources which you have at your hand. What are the training needs for your staff, about the cooperation with experience of cooperation with VTI in the past, and plan contribution to the consortium. Then next one, liability towards credit bureau, tax and employment authorities. It is the same as I explained already with VTI, so I don't need to repeat again the same explanation. Emphasize again here only overdue, okay? So only those which are really out of your regular scheduled payments. And then the last item in this section is about the end-year results in the year preceding submission. And we are also receiving questions here. We understand that due to COVID situation, many of the enterprises are coping with much more difficult results and situations compared to previous years. So we understand that situation, but in case you are not achieving profits or didn't achieve profit last year, then we would like to explain in the comment box, which is inserted below. And we would like to see your activity prior COVID year has been still solid and you were able to achieve profitability. And this is important for us to understand about the sustainability of the enterprise and their ability to make sure their continuity over the duration of the project and be able to receive the trainees for the work-based learning. In these sections, we have created the same fields for the 3 enterprises, but only 2 of them are mandatory, because that's one of the eligibility criteria. that we would like to have at least 2 enterprises involved in the consortium, in the vet consortium. But yeah, in case you have more enterprises, the third one is already pre-programmed here, and there are in section 4, which I will follow, you can add even another ones. Any questions regarding section 3?
I see one hand raised. Gospođo Kalenjuk, izvolite.
Greškom sam.
Aha, greškom ste. Okay.
Jelena, maybe if I may,
Please.
Let me maybe finish this last step, which is necessary to do for the enterprises in this section, and then maybe we return to the content or to the question, because I think it's also related to that. Yeah. So in section 3, it will be important once the information are finalized, that all fields are completed, and the enterprise is ready to support the application and to approve it, to approve their participation. Then here in this guiding notes part at the top of the page, you will see a little declaration, which you need to look at and basically to agree that the information you inserted, including any annexes which are attached to this application, are true, complete, and accurate. And only once all the enterprises information are entered, you will see, and the enterprises will see the button finish contribution. So all the enterprises need to, basically all the information need to be included. And then each enterprise which will be invited needs to push this button finish contribution. So this is the confirmation of their participation in the project. So this would be explanation about the section 3 before we move on.
We have one question, whether the school needs to fill in all the information about the enterprises. Da li je škola obavezna da popuni podatke o preduzeću?
Yeah, we suggest, just to make sure that we don't, experience any troubles, let's say, with the application in terms of the data, of the information, that first you include all the information yourself, and invited enterprises, they will just review them. Basically, they have the option and the right to edit the full section 3 in case something would be incorrect. But yeah, we would still recommend you enter all the information, then you invite the enterprises and they just look through, review the full application, and push the button finish contribution.
Thank you, Pavel. I believe we understood the answer. So the best is to fill in the information by the school and then ask enterprises to confirm. I don't see any questions related to this section.
And maybe one more recommendation is that it would be good if you do it, if you invite the enterprises, individually. So you ask enterprise 1 to review and confirm, and then you request, then you invite or instruct enterprise 2 to do so, etc. Just to make sure, because all of them would have the right to edit the fields for all the enterprises, just to make sure to prevent any deletion of information of other enterprise. We would recommend that not all of them gain access at the same moment to the application, because that's theoretically possible when they register and enter the system at the same time. But we would recommend that you handle it in certain order. So you agree with enterprise 1, then with enterprise 2, and then with enterprise 3, just to make sure you have the right information staying in the system. Section 4. Section 4. And this is very simple. This is in case you would include into that consortium more than 3 enterprises, then we offer here the option to answer the question whether you require additional enterprises, and in case your answer is yes, if there are more enterprises engaged in the consortium, then you will need to confirm here, and if you push yes, then it basically opens the fields for enterprises number 4 up to 10. So we will be receiving the same fields as in section 3 for enterprises 4 to 10. And the procedure is exactly the same, to invite those and to ask them to confirm their participation. Then we move on to section 5, which is about cooperative training program that is subject of the application. And here we are asking whether the training program is new or existing. Then we are asking also about the title of this training program. If there are more, we are asking to add those information here. Then certificate accreditation for the program, if it has been already awarded or not, because we understand that some of the training programs you might propose are still in the process of certification accreditation. And as we explain on our info sessions, you can apply with those, but you have to be already rather advanced in the process and make sure that within the application approval, the full application approval, which comes after expression of interest, and you will be able to receive this accreditation within 6 months of the full application approval. So we would give you additional time to make sure you can deliver the accreditation of the training program before you will be able to sign the funding agreement, the grant agreement. Then we are asking about the sector of the training program, type of the training program, whether it's a short term, less than 12 months, or long term, lasting more than 1 year. We included the short term, especially due to the interest in some requalification courses, or there are short-term courses for adult learning or continuing education. And then it continues with additional fields like duration. What's the duration of the training program? For the short term, we are asking for the months. For the long term, we are asking for academic years. Number of training places which are created in the first year and the second year. What I want to emphasize here, that for the short term, we are asking only for the first year. We are not asking for the long term. We understand if it's less than 1 year, then you will be entering only training places for the first year. Then for the short term, it's a number of repeated parallel training programs. So if you have repeated programs for shorter period, then you might have few of them during 1 year. Then we ask about the start date, whether this is something which already happened or it is planned. So we are asking about the planned date or date which happened in the past. Learning places offered by the enterprises. So here we are asking about basically the places which are offered by individual enterprises. Here we created fields for 3 enterprises, but again, fields for enterprise 1 and 2 are mandatory. If there are more enterprises involved and more enterprises will offer training places, then in the last comment box, we would like to ask you to add that information, because we don't have that space here. Then about the trainees employed. Here we want to again highlight or emphasize, it's not mandatory for the enterprises to employ the trainees of the trainings programs, but we would like to see if the enterprises have the interest, have the willingness, have the capacity to employ any of the trainings. And previous experience with cooperative training. So here we would like to see if the enterprises had any particular experiences and also vocational training institutes, any experience with the cooperative training. Then we would like to see rationale of cooperation. We would like to list at least three benefits of cooperation between the consortium partners. Then the last, I think, question which we have in this section is about resilience to situations like COVID-19. So we would like to see if the training program which you are proposing brings any benefits for yourself, I mean for the VTI, for the enterprises, in terms that in case you face situations similar COVID-19, if it will help you to overcome these situations due to the character of the training program you are proposing. And then, as I mentioned, in case you were not able to enter any information in the fields above, we would like to ask you to explain about those in additional comment box. Any questions about the section 5?
Čuli ste poziv, da li ima nekih pitanja vezano za sekciju 5? Ja i dalje vidim jednu ruku koja je, mislim, greškom podignuta, ali ne vidim dodatno podignute ruke niti pitanja. Dobro, ako nema dodatnih pitanja, idemo dalje. Yes, please continue.
All right. So let's move to section 6, which is about the current status of cooperative training capacities. So here we are asking questions about the situation within VTI and enterprises. What would you like to finance, and whether you have the cooperative training coordinator assigned to the training program, and about the facilities, whether you have available facilities, premises. It concerns the buildings, the laboratories, workshops, whatever. Yeah, I mean, the facilities you need to perform the training. Then about the equipment, tools, machinery available, teaching materials, needs for teachers, coordinators, in-company trainers training. Then about the operational maintenance budget supported by the authorities for the project period. So basically, we are asking whether you have obtained this letter of support, and later on you need to attach it also, as you will see. And then again, additional comments in case there are some comments you need to mention here regarding this section, and the questions related. Where, I mean, here with these questions, we are basically already receiving some indication of your investment needs. For the enterprises, you will need to enter the cooperative training coordinator, name and position, and the same for the company, in-company trainer or instructor. In some smaller enterprises, it might be the case it's the same person, which is perfectly fine. Any questions here? No? Okay,
I would say no.
No, good for us, it's all clear. Okay, section 7. So this is about the subject of the grant financing, and Frieder will follow up with his explanation about individual budget items which are eligible but I will still touch base about the form within the application. So here we want you to explain briefly, make a descriptive information about your funding needs and the purpose of the funding, why we are still asking about the estimated amounts. Okay, I mean, so all the amounts which you are going to enter in these sections might not be super precise, and they might still, be fine-tuned later on, but we expect that you will enter here the best estimates for the needs you would present within your application. We are also asking about the country and the local currency, which is applicable. And here that you see the different categories of investments. So as I mentioned, facilities for the rehabilitation, reconstruction, or extension. Then equipment, tools, machinery, whether this is a newly procured or upgrade of existing ones. Teaching materials, again, preparation or upgrade. Cooperative training coordinators, teachers in companies, trainers training. And anything else which might be added here, which also reader will show you what are the other items which could be included. And as you see, again here, this red asterisk, the mandatory fields are for euro amounts, but you can also enter the local amounts, just if it's easier for you to calculate first in local amounts and then you need to recalculate into euro amounts, because that will be the currency of the project, of the grant, of the funding agreement. Just to end up these sections, you still have some remaining fields here, and that is matching contribution. This matching contribution needs to be at least at 10% of total requested grant amount. And this is the amount which needs to be contributed by the 𝗏 consortium partners. So not the any outside or external parties, but 𝗏 consortium partners. And this could be done in financial or in kind form, so which we are asking to describe here. Then we also added external partner contribution, which could contribute to the completion of the project. So if your budget overall also requires additional funding, which is contributed, co-financed by external parties, we are asking to add this information here. And again, this could be financial or in kind. And then we have automatic calculation of the amount. So of the numbers of the figures which you entered previously, you will get the automatic calculation here for both currencies, for euro and local. For the matching contribution, we posted also the guidelines on the website to show you what is eligible under matching contribution. Any questions regarding section 7?
I don't see any questions regarding section 7 or raised hands.
Okay. So then we move to section 8, which is about supporting documentation. So here we are asking you to upload Memorandum of Understanding. As you probably know, on our website, on the application package, you will see the documents, different documents. One of them is Memorandum of Understanding template, and this template is posted on Serbian website in bilingual version, English and Serbian. And we are asking to complete this document and sign it by all parties which participate in 𝗏 consortium and upload it here. We are also asking here to enter the date when did you sign the Memorandum of Understanding. Then the licenses. So this is applicable for the vocational training institutes, which needs to be licensed in order to perform their training or educational programs. Then accreditation document for the training education program or programs itself. Then letter of support. This letter of support is necessary again. You will see under the application package the template for the letter of support, which you can download from our website and fine-tune to your needs. Basically enter the missing information and ask the relevant authority to sign it. For the privately owned VTIs, they are obliged to upload the letter of support signed by the legal representative of the VTI. So basically the owner needs to confirm their support to the project. And enterprise business registration form. So this is valid for the enterprises and also for the privately owned VTIs as they are registered as the businesses. Maybe just to add here on the accreditation document, based on yesterday comments we had in other economy, I added into system also the possibility that in case this is not yet approved or issued, their case has been that they don't have authority to do so. So it's not mandatory, this field, but you need to explain in the comments what is the situation with the status of accreditation.
If I may just briefly step in, Pavel. There were questions in Q&A section, and I also received some questions via email. What kind of documents can be uploaded as licenses or accreditation document? So as Pavel explained, the licenses under this field is mandatory. And you have to upload a license, whatever is relevant for your institution. Just to remind you, this call is simultaneously launched in 6 different economies and 6 different educational systems. So it really depends from one to another what is the most appropriate. Some schools mentioned document from the ministry or from court about funding the institution. And then with the accreditation, there was a question whether official verification of the educational profile issued by the ministry can be considered as accreditation document. I believe our answer is yes, that it can be. During the previous tutorial, one of the teachers asked whether official decision published in official gazette, u službenom glasniku, that contains the list of the profiles, could be also stated in a comment box or additionally support the application. And of course, whatever you find relevant and the closest to our request, feel free to upload, and we can, of course, always get back to you in case we need additional information. And there is one technical question about the title of the school. Does the title of the school needs to be translated? For instance, do they need to enter 𝗧𝗵𝗲 𝗥𝗲𝗴𝗏 or 𝗪-𝗵𝗵𝗀 school? The question refers to Memorandum of Understanding.
I think you can reply. We keep the names and titles as they are in original language.
Yeah, same goes for Memorandum of Understanding. Memorandum of Understanding is bilingual, but we do keep the titles in original. Okay, thank you. So there's another question about accreditation and licenses documents. Do they need to translate these documents to English, or they can upload originals in Serbian?
That's what we also agreed, that we keep the local language versions. That's sufficient.
Right. Okay. I don't see any questions referring to this section.
All right. So then, yeah, let's move then to the last section. So once all the information are completed, and on summary page, you see that all these fields are in green, completed, and also all the enterprises at this stage already pushed the button confirm contribution. So they basically approved their participation. The leading applicant will be able to see the button submit application. And after they go through this declaration and check the box here, they will be able to push the button submit application. And once the application is submitted, the system will send you an acknowledgement email, so you can be sure that your application has been received by the system in RCF and that it will be evaluated. As you know, the deadline for the first round, for the first call of expression of interest, is 30th April, and any attempts to submit after the date will not be accepted by the system. And after you submit, you will be able to come back to log into the system and to view your application, but you will be not able to modify it anymore. So once the applications for expression of interest are submitted, there will be independent team of evaluators who is going to review and evaluate and will select those who will be approved to submit the full application. So afterward, all those will receive the emails, invitation emails to come back to the same system which you see now, which will be expanded with additional fields for more detailed information about the project. So I don't think, but of course, if anybody has any questions here with this 9th section, we can answer them. Otherwise, I think I went through all the sections which are necessary to complete. And I would end with my presentation and will leave you just with the contact for any issues, queries, questions which you might experience with the system, to send this to the applications at rcf-wb6.org. You have basically, the space to address those to us, and then we are sharing among the regional coordinators from different, who are responsible for different countries, so they can communicate with you in local languages as well.
Thank you, Pavel.
Thank you, Elena. And wish you good luck with your applications.
Great. There are already some questions regarding financial contribution, what can be monetary, what can be in-kind contribution on the side of the companies, on the side of the schools. So with no further ado, I leave the floor to Mr. Frieder Werman, the team leader of our fund management unit, to share his presentation on calculations regarding the budget. As Pavel showed, there are just few simple entries that we need at this point regarding your budget, so rough estimations, but we decided to provide further explanations that could help you calculate to decide on these amounts to be entered into expression of interest form. Frieder, please.
As well, my screen. Give a bit of an easier overview of the template. Good. So yes, as Pavel has explained it, there's a certain level of financial information as well required now at the expression of interest submission. We think it makes sense to have already a look at the more complete budgeting and planning template that's as well available on the website. And I will briefly run you through the individual parts and positions, and maybe some of the questions can be clarified then in this way that come up with regard to the question, what can be financed and what are the sources of funding. Basically, the template has two parts. The first part is this one here, which relates to the different positions for which we expect a plan, a budget. And then we have a second part, which is on the right side. These are the sources of funding. So the entire budget needs to be completely funded. There's just a possibility to consider different sources. We have the matching contribution. We get quite some questions in this regard. Then we have the possibility for co-financing, and then there's of course the grant funding provided by the RCF. Maybe easier in this form concerning the first part. That's the budgeting or the planning that we expect. This has covering the main three elements that we consider as key to the cooperative training project. The first one is the investments. I think that's relatively straightforward. We have machineries and equipment. Building activities that can be adaptation, that can be constructing a new workshop, this can be enlargements. So these kind of activities are covered. Classroom adaptations internally, usually technical improvements in there. And if you see the need for any other hardware investment, there's also the possibility to specify this year. Then we have the activities related to the implementation of the cooperative training program that is being funded. Relatively straightforward training, training material with expenses relating to in-company trainers, but as well teachers at the schools, and then as well the remuneration of the cooperative training, cooperative program coordinators, and the in-company trainers, which are obviously required for the successful implementation of the training course. And then last but not least, there are a couple of operating costs where we would like to see a plan. They simply ensure that the program is executed properly and as well planned, financed for a period of 3 years. We have 4 phases, basically. The first phase, and that is difficult to specify the length because it depends a bit on the investment and the need of either construction activities or the time for procurement. That is the project implementation phase. That is everything that leads then to the start of the course at a certain point in time. And that is where then the period of the training course itself starts. And there we consider 3 consecutive years for the planning of the budget.
Can I just for a second stop? We heard that in Serbian the term izgradnja was used, which means building from the scratch. So maybe just also to clarify, we did have one question in chat. What can be supported? Building of new premises or constructions, adaptations? As we say in Serbian, nadogradnja, proširenje. I know I'm using Serbian terms because I know Frieder understands. So just sorry for interrupting. Just better to maybe at this point before we continue.
Yeah, it is obviously difficult to build a new school from scratch. I think that is not the idea, and it's also not possible given the amounts available, up to 600,000 euros. But it can be anything that is required. It can be adaptation. It can be a construction of a new building that would then house a workshop if that is necessary. It can be the reorganization of a certain workshop that is more internal works. What we cannot finance is a general renovation of schools or energy efficiency measures. So these kind of investments are not covered. Brief or a simple explanation or guidance is that it has to be connected to the provision of a certain training course, and in this context, it can be almost everything. So we're just giving some ideas here, but are willing to listen to the proposals of the consortia, what is required and what is needed. Good. Yeah, so maybe again to the investments. Yeah, so most of the investments will obviously take place in the first project phase. Yeah, that is the time when things are being built and being installed. Also the training of trainers, the teaching material development. This will also be part of this first phase. And then remuneration of trainers will relate to the 3 years of running the program, and the same for the operating costs. That is mostly relevant for the years 1 to 3. That's, I think, relatively straightforward. Good. Questions later on. So I briefly come to the funding sources. So we have on the one side, we have the budget, the investment plan. And on this right side, we would like to see the planning for where the money comes from. There we have, again, the same positions here. That's investments, training elements, and the operational costs. We have the matching contribution, which is expected to be 10% of the requested grant funding. It doesn't have to be the entire project. Yeah, so because the co-financing can constitute a significant part in the overall project, but the matching contribution only relates to the grant funding. The matching contribution comes from the consortium members. I think Pavel mentioned that already. So either the VTI or the company, and they can be in cash, in co-investment in this sense, but as well in kind by contributing the time and the efforts of staff and partners for the implementation of the program. So we would mostly expect the matching contributions to come from covering the operational cost on this side, and as well the remuneration of the trainers and teachers. This also is related to the fact that the funding under the RCF cannot be provided for these positions. So remuneration means salaries of trainers and teachers cannot be financed under the RCF. The same applies for certain operational expenses like transport, insurance and allowances for the learners, and general utilities. There are 2 positions that can be financed under the RCF and should be planned accordingly. These are OHS expenses, so this occupational health and security, and as well the maintenance of the equipment that is being purchased, if it is purchased under RCF funding. Good, and then we have last but not least the co-financing element. This is not a necessity, so there's no need for co-financing, but we had many requests whether it's possible that, for example, a state institution or state organization takes over a certain part of a planned investment, or an international partner is contributing to the project. That is all fine and should be calculated or entered to the overall project costs under this position of co-financing. I think can be anything. Yeah, so that is not really specified here. So up to the consortium and the partners then to define that. But I think I'll leave it here and rather take some concrete questions that will probably illustrate better certain positions if there's any unclarity.
Thank you, Frieder. I believe we have answered the question, what can be considered as in-kind contribution? I have just shared the link through answering one question. We prepared the guideline on matching contribution. So you can also go back to these guidelines and see what kind of items are mentioned there as potential subject of a matching contribution, and what kind of calculation methods we advise you to use. There are pro rata, monthly amortizations, and other details. I see one hand raised from Mr. Đorđević. Gospodine Đorđeviću, ja ću vam sada dati reč. Mislim da je u pitanju direktor škole. Da li se čujemo, gospodine Đorđeviću?
Dobar dan.
Dobar dan, dobrodošli. Hvala
Ja
što
vas
ste
čujem,
se
da li me
javili.
čujete?
Čujemo vas odlično, izvolite,
Jedno
postavite.
tehnička škola iz Vlasotinca, jedno pitanje vezano za kompanije i prikazivanje njihovog učešća. Kada kompanija ima veći broj programa, odnosno obrazovnih profila koji već uče kroz rad po dualnom modelu, da li prikazuje svoje učešće za sve te obrazovne profile i programe koje sprovodi, jer i škola će aplicirati za veći broj srodnih profila koji su u kompanijama za njihovu opremu za školske radionice. Recimo, jedna kompanija planira izgradnju mini trening centra u okviru kompanije, ali za veći broj tih profila koje ima iz škole. To je pitanje.
Dakle, vaše pitanje je da li troškovi kompanije koji bi bili usmereni na opremanje, nisam samo razumela da li kupovanje nove opreme, opremanje ili već korišćenje postojećih sredstva.
Kada kompanija prikazuje svoje troškove, da li prikazuje za sve učenike po dualnom modelu koji su kod njih na učenju kroz rad. Recimo i tehničar mehatronike, industrijski mehaničar i operater mašinske obrade i električar, jer bi mi u tom delu opremali školu kroz ovaj projekat i te radionice s rodnom opremom koju koriste svi ovi obrazovni profili.
Ukoliko vi planirate da aplicirate za fond sa projektom koji povezuje više obrazovnih profila, srodnih, koji koriste istu opremu, kao što ste lepo rekli, meni se čini da bi onda i kompanija mogla da prikaže troškove vezane za sprovođenje tih obrazovnih programa, ali ajde da čujemo i gospodina Fridera ako želi nešto da doda vezano za ovo pitanje.
Yes, it depends on the training course subject of the RCF funding. So if that is for different occupational areas, then all the students and all the costs should be included there. If it is not, so for example, one are cooks and the other one are mechanics, it will be difficult to combine the two. At least I cannot imagine. So in that case, it will only be the expenses that arise with regard to the mechanics, for example. So that's, it depends really on the training course that is being proposed as the subject of the RCF funding.
Eto, dakle, čuli ste odgovor, zavisno od onog kursa sa kojim aplicirate, odnosno onog obrazovnog profila sa kojim aplicirate za podršku RCF-a.
Da li moramo da apliciramo samo za jedan program, jer postoji tamo, vidim, mogućnost da navedemo i druge programe koje trenutno aktuelni su i školujemo po dualnom modelu, a opremali bi ih isto nedostajućom opremom u radionicama.
To je ovo što smo sada upravo rekli. Ako se govori o srodnim profilima, bliskim, koji predviđaju da se usvoje veštine vezane za rukovanje istom opremom koju nabavljate od strane fonda, onda možete navesti kroz prijavu i više od jednog programa, odnosno više od jednog obrazovnog profila. Dakle, ako ima smisla da se koristi ista oprema ili da se zahtevaju isti radovi.
Hvala.
Nema na čemu. Imamo jedno pitanje u Q&A. Maybe we need to clarify when are we expecting this table for financing to be submitted? We always need to say this a couple of times.
As I mentioned, I think it is not required now for the expression of interest. It will be part of the full application and the project proposal, which we will ask the most promising consortia to submit after shortlisting, being shortlisted for that. So will be in May. So if you want to have a date, in May, June, that should be finished by then.
Da, tako je. Dakle, mi smo odabrali da prikažemo ovaj obrazac budžeta jer smo imali puno pitanja oko toga šta može, šta ne može biti finansirano, onda nam je bilo lakše da pokažemo tabelu sa taksativno navedenim stavkama, ali ono što se očekuje od vas u fazi podnošenja izjave zainteresovanosti je ono što je kolega Pavel pokazao negde pred kraj formulara. To su samo 2-3 pitanja. Koliko za opremu, koliko je vaš matching contribution, A, B, C, D, E i to je sve. A tabelu možete koristiti za lakše, možete i ne morate koristiti da biste lakše došli do ovih suma.
And maybe brief comment, additional comment on that. It is also possible to change to a certain extent. Right now, the values. Right now, the expression of interest, that's an estimation. It's an educated guess. Yeah, and then when going to a more detailed planning, the figures can as well be adjusted. So that is not a big issue. So we will notice it, but we will in the end look at the template for our evaluation. And the expression of interest now is just to give us a certain idea, and of course to check whether there is an idea in the consortia with regard to the planned investment and the budget.
Gospođo Kovačević, vi ste podigli ruku. Izvolite. Miro?
Hvala, Jelena. Ja onda samo moram još jednom da sama sebi pojasnim ove informacije vezano za tabelu i za znači budžet projekta. Sada, kada se podnosi izjava o nameri, onda se daje samo procena sredstava traženih od strane konzorcijuma, samo procena, a ova tabela nju dostavljamo sa dokumentima u drugoj fazi, u narednoj fazi, je li tako? Pošto je sad rekao u maju. Maj nije druga faza, maj je malo kasnije. Onda tu samo da pojasnim. Znači sad u prvoj samo procena, a tabelu uz ostatak dokumenta u sledećoj fazi. Je li tako? Tako. Dobro, hvala.
Hvala vama. Da li još neko od učesnika želi da postavi neko pitanje? Are there any further questions? Ja malo se šaltam, malo ovaj jezik, malo onaj. Aha. Imamo pitanje gospođe Jajagin. Da li se sredstva ulažu isključivo u prostorije škola, fakulteta ili to može biti ulaganje u radionice u okviru kompanije koja je deo konzorcijuma? Ovo pitanje često dobijamo i imamo spreman odgovor koji iz puške, što to mnoge zanima. Dakle, primarni cilj regionalnog challenge fonda jeste jačanje kapaciteta obrazovnih ustanova da odgovore na potrebe savremenog poslovanja u smislu obezbeđivanja infrastrukture i opreme potrebne da učenici steknu bazične tehničke veštine. Dakle, očekuje se da primarni korisnici budu škole, fakulteti, trening centri, dakle sve ono što podrazumevamo pod ustanovama koje pružaju stručno obrazovanje i obuku. I to je ono što je stvarno idealni slučaj i što ohrabrujemo. Ono što može biti u pojedinim izuzecima da iz nekih specifičnih i vrlo ograničenih razloga nije moguće da oprema koja je potrebna za realizaciju nastavnog plana i programa bude smeštena u škole. Tada se mogu razmatrati ti izuzeci ukoliko su veoma jasno, precizno i dobro obrazloženi. Dakle, to bi moglo da bude redak izuzetak, ali ne i pravilo. Frieder, do you need to add something on this? Or I managed to formulate? Okay.
No, that's fine, yeah.
Da, hvala vam na ovom pitanju. Nije zgorek to ponovo pojasniti. Da vidimo da li imamo još neko pitanje. Lidija se prikazala likom. Je li to znači, Lidija, da hoćeš i ti da nam se uključiš? Ne? Ne, dobro, okej. Eto, mi imamo još koji minut. Možemo da iskoristimo preostalo vreme, da čujemo još neko pitanje od vas ili da se rastanemo ranije. Možda ste se umorili već, kasno je popodne. Ne, evo mogu pitati koleginici iz Privredne komore ako žele nešto da dodaju, pojasne, one su svakodnevno u kontaktu sa kompanijama, ako ima nešto na što biste vi skrenule pažnju našim prisutnima danas ovde. Izvolite.
Nemamo ništa da dodamo. Hvala Jelena, hvala Pavelu i Frideru na zaista iscrpnim informacijama, pojašnjenjima i hvala učesnicima na tome što su i danas bili sa nama i želimo im uspeh i sreću u pripremi dokumenata, a naravno i prolaz dalje. Hvala.
Hvala vama što ste nas podržale danas. I ništa, ako nema dodatnih pitanja, ja pozivam moje kolege, Pavla i Fridera, da li želite nešto da dodate, da dodatno poručite? Pavel,
no, I think everything has been said, so no, there are no questions, then we leave it here.
Okay.
Thanks, Jelena.
Great, thank you. Hvala prevodiocima, Sanji i Nives, hvala tehničkoj podršci i svima vama što ste ostali do kraja sesije. Naravno, mi vam stojimo na raspolaganju putem e-mail adresa applications.info ili Jelena ili Privredna komora, koja god vam je najzgodnija adresa. Mi ćemo se međusobno konsultovati i truditi se da vam odgovorimo brzo i efikasno i kvalitetno, tako da eto, srećno i sa moje strane i ostajemo u kontaktu. Pozdrav svima.
Thank you. Bye bye.